Fantasy Football Power Hour. We're here in week 11 of the NFL, and here in the 2024-25 season. The Fantasy Football Power Hour on Wake Up Call is proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub on 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. It is what happy tastes like, and what it is in the world. And the fantastic food, everything they have to offer, so many great things at the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. Open 7 days a week. You can go out and see them any day of the week, including on game day. And for takeout and delivery, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat. As we always do, we start with Thursday Night Football. We take you all the way to Monday night this week in week 11 of the 2024-25 season. There are teams that are off: the Arizona Cardinals, the Carolina Panthers, the New York Giants, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are all off this week. So make sure that you go ahead and circle that and remember that. So in your fantasy football, you're not putting any of those players out there. With that being said, starting with Thursday Night Football, we're going to go right to the Washington Commanders and getting into the Commanders and seeing where we are with the Washington Commanders as we start things off here. The Commanders are obviously having themselves a very strong season, doing a lot of great things out there. Jaden Daniels is doing a tremendous job. And in this game, this divisional game in the NFC East against the Philadelphia Eagles, the Eagles, they have some talent. They got a lot of fantasy value, but the Eagles have struggled at times and haven't been that team that some people were hoping they were going to turn out to be, where the Washington Commanders are commanding the NFC East in a really big way and seemingly are going to continue to grow from here. So going to Washington first, I'll say that on their side of it, Jaden Daniels, fantasy football-wise, worth the play for you. Brian Robinson Jr., he is on the injury report with a hamstring injury. I talk about hamstring and groin with running backs and wide receivers especially, are those nagging injuries that really affect them. So hopefully he'll be well and stay well. Monitor that. Jaden Daniels worth the play. Austin Eckler worth the play, as well as Terry McLaurin and Zach Feel So Good It Hurts. On the other side for the Philadelphia Eagles, the home team inside of this Thursday night football matchup, Jalen Hurts injury as well. He's questionable for the game, so just make sure that you go and review your injury report all the way up until the moment of game time. But Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, a lot of fantasy value here on Thursday night football to put out there for you in this matchup. And if you have a question, go ahead and send it in to us. You are watching and listening to us on all of our international channels. We're on youtube.com and facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. So if you have a question on your specific team, you can go ahead and send it to those feeds. Make sure you go to the direct video here so that I can answer your questions as they come in here. More than happy to answer those questions here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. So if you have a question, go ahead and send it in to us, and I'll be looking up here and making sure we don't miss anything if they come in. I appreciate the questions we've gotten over this season and throughout the year. So with that being said, we'll go from the Washington at Philly game. We're going to move over to the next matchup here, which brings us to the Packers at the Bears. The Packers at the Bears in this an NFC North game that they're going to have between these two teams. The Bears are trying to find their footing, right? They're trying to find their way with their rookie quarterback. I think people have to remember that a rookie quarterback is going to have struggling moments, and it's more typical for a rookie quarterback to have the adversity than for a rookie quarterback to come out and be phenomenal. There's a lot of rookies that went on to have good seasons, good careers, after their rookie season, because it takes time. You're making an adjustment. And, I think in our society that we live in, where everybody wants everything instantaneously and, you got to have something happen in a half a millisecond, you forget the fact that, the journey is part of it. The journey is something that is such a big piece to all of this. So make sure that you're taking the time to really just let Chicago be Chicago, let Chicago grow, and understand that it's not going to happen overnight for the Chicago Bears. The Green Bay Packers, on the other hand, Green Bay Packers, a guy that had to wait in the wings, just like Aaron Rodgers did behind Brett Favre, Jordan Love did behind Aaron Rodgers, and Jordan Love has been doing a good job here, and I think he's better than people have anticipated. And I've been told by Tim Lester, who was there last season, and, around Jordan Love, he told me, listen, guys, people are really excited about Jordan Love. The fan base is really excited about him, and there's a lot to him. He was looking at him from a different world, where I think people were like, we don't have Brett Favre anymore. We don't have Aaron Rodgers anymore. Is this Jordan Love guy going to do anything? Is he going to help us? And realizing the fact that, Jordan Love is someone who does have a lot of talent, and he does bring a lot to this team. Malik Willis has stepped in and done a nice job too. And I want to echo what I've said before, because, he was left for dead in Tennessee, and he's done some good things being in Green Bay, having to fill in for an injured Jordan Love. So I think Jordan Love in this matchup is worth the play. Josh Jacobs is worth the play. Jaden Reed back and healthy and well. So I'd have Jaden Reed as probably a wide receiver 2. Romeo Doubs, I'll put him as a 3. Christian Watson, I'll put him as a 3 as well. I think Doubs might open up in this game, but I like Jaden Reed a little bit more than Doubs, although I am kind of circling Doubs for this week on Sunday. For the Chicago Bears, this is a team that, like I said, they're growing, they're learning. They did not have a prolific offense for these last few seasons. They've been through different coaches, they've been through different quarterbacks, they've been trying to figure out what's going to work in Chicago. Remember, Chicago was a team under Lovie Smith that people are like, oh, well, they're making the playoffs, but they're not going anywhere. At least they were making it to the playoffs at the time. Where now you look at Chicago and you don't expect them to make the playoffs. They've been okay, but it's kind of like, well, maybe they're a 7-9 team. Maybe they win 8 games, that type of stuff. When you look at them most recently here in fantasy, they just lost to the Patriots 19-3. And in that game against the Patriots, Caleb Williams 16-30, 120 yards. DeAndre Swift 59 yards on the ground. Keenan Allen, 44 yards receiving. DJ Moore, 24. So in this game against Green Bay, if you're going to put somebody out there, maybe you want to flex out Swift as a running back 3. Maybe you look at Rome Odunze or maybe DJ Moore as a flex out wide receiver. But I think at best right now in the Chicago offense, these guys are guys that I would flex out, not guys that I'm saying, yeah, that's my number 1 quarterback. That's my number 1 wide receiver. That's my number 1 running back. I think it's DeAndre Swift. It's Rome Odunze. It's DJ Moore. Keenan Allen, I go back and forth with Keenan Allen because unfortunately he's been injured a lot. He typically doesn't play a full season. So Keenan's somebody that's on my radar, but he's not someone that I ever truly feel like yeah, that's the guy that I'm going to lean on in fantasy football. So if you're wondering why I'm not talking about Keenan Allen, I don't have as high thought on that. I'm just I kind of live in that world like, yeah, he's talented, but is he consistent? And if he's consistent, is he staying healthy with that consistency? And those are a lot of ifs when it comes to Keenan Allen. So I'm going to say there's more fantasy value definitely on Green Bay's side. Chicago, if you want to flex out a couple of those guys that I named, but hopefully you're not relying on Chicago to save your fantasy season. Looking at the Jaguars and the Lions in this game at Detroit, not the game that you want to see if you're Jacksonville and you're reeling here. Jacksonville has been in a lot of games, but they're not winning those games. Jacksonville is 2-8. They could be 8-2, but they're not. This team, well, I should say it's more of 5 or 6 of those. So, yeah, they could be 8-2. When you really look at how this team has played in the games that they played themselves in, but they make mistakes late. They don't close out games. They're not a complete team right now. So Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, he's still on the injury report, and he has an AC joint injury. He's going to be out for this game, which means it's Mac Jones again. Tank Bigsby, unfortunately, he's questionable with an ankle injury. He's done some good things with the team, but now he's hampered by injury as well. So really, if you want to put out Travis Etienne, I would say he's a low-end 2, high-end 3 running back this week. Brian Thomas Jr. I would like to say that that's a target that they're going to, and Evan Engram, but it's up and down and around the corner. We know that they typically play from behind, which helps in the passing game. So, I mean, Evan Engram has value and Brian Thomas Jr. has value, but this team is not playing at a high clip right now. So it's hard for me to tell you to lean on any one of these guys. I think Travis Etienne, Brian Thomas Jr., and Evan Engram are the names in fantasy to look at, but none of these guys are your number one guy right now, in my opinion. On Detroit's side of it, I like Jared Goff in this game. I like David Montgomery. I like Jahmyr Gibbs. I like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jamison Williams, I mean, this is the second time this guy's been suspended. He got 53 yards in his return this past week. I'm going to call him a wide receiver 3 at this point, but I think that in this game, you could probably regard him as a 2. Moving on to the next one, we have the Raiders. The Raiders going up against the Miami Dolphins on the road in Miami. These are two teams. My buddy Jason Lucas, who's been on the show a bunch, he is a fan of, but he shows love for both of these teams. His wife is a Raider. He is a Dolphin. So he's been out to these games. He's been supporting these games. And I just want to give him a shout out to him and the family. And of course, to my beautiful, wonderful nieces, Miss Gracie and Miss Carly, and my nephew Carter up in heaven. So taking a look at the Raiders first. The Raiders are in a place right now where they're not bad, but they're not good. They're 2-7, and they have, what I'm saying about them not being bad, they have talent. They have talent, but this is a team that consistently struggles. Nico asked a question here. Let's see what Nico's got here. He said, "Sup, boss, in a PPR, do I trade Bijan for James Cook and Cooper Kupp? My wide receiver 1 and 2 are Lamb and Garrett Wilson. My current running back room is Stevenson, Chuba Hubbard, and Beige. I don't have a solid flex option." Okay. And then it got cut off where he wrote, "and I think." So I didn't see the rest of that, Nico. He said, getting Kupp would help. So, I mean, you're getting Cook and Kupp, you're giving up Beige. I mean, I don't like you giving up Bijan Robinson, but, you know, because I'm not a big fan of your running back room to me with Hubbard and Stevenson, not great. So, I mean, James Cook, you know, Bijan, I would take Bijan all day above James Cook head-to-head in fantasy right now, but you're also getting Cooper Kupp. So I understand you want to flex somebody out. So if you're going to play Lamb and you're going to play Wilson, you want to have somebody else there, and Kupp is a better option to flex out than Stevenson or Hubbard. So I do get that. I mean, you're getting 2 for 1. I'm okay with the trade, but Bijan is a definite he's the snag that's kind of, you know, Bijan to me is above Cook when it comes to fantasy. So I think, you know, you're adding another receiver, but you're not necessarily helping out your running back room tremendously, is what I'm trying to say in that trade. I'm okay with the trade because you're getting Kupp and Cook. I'm just a little leery of giving up Bijan. If it was Bijan for Cook, I'd say no. But I understand what you're trying to do there. When we look at and if you have any more thoughts or anything, send those in. And if anybody else has a question, make sure you send it in to us on youtube.com. Go straight to the video itself, youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, or here on facebook.com/wakeupcalldt. You can go ahead and ask us, or you can go to our internet radio feed, wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. So looking at the Bengals, they just lost this game. The Raiders did on the road 41-24. And this matchup for them, I mean, their running back room, I don't put a lot into as far as leaning on them fantasy football-wise. Desmond Ridder is on the team now, and Desmond Ridder threw a touchdown pass in this game. He was 11 for 16, 74 yards and a touchdown. Minshew was 10 of 17 for 124. So Jacoby Myers, I mean, he had 105 yards. He had 8 catches. Good for that PPR. Brock Bowers had a touchdown. He had 5 catches. So, you know, I think if you're going to play any of the Raiders in this game that they have against the Dolphins, I'm not wowed by the Dolphins defense by any stretch of the imagination. So I would say, if you're going to put somebody out there, I'm okay with you putting Brock Bowers out there, and I'm okay with Jacoby Myers. I don't think he's a 1 at receiver, but I'm okay with you putting Jacoby Myers out there in this game. As far as the quarterback goes, it's could be anybody. We've seen 3 different quarterbacks play in these first 10 weeks for the Las Vegas Raiders. So, and, Desmond Ridder, I've been a fan of him since I covered him in college. So, I'm going to stay a fan of him. I appreciate him. I respect him. So, I have no qualms when it comes to Desmond Ridder. I know people want him to be this and wanted him to be that and wish he was this and wish he was that, but he's a talented quarterback. He doesn't get enough credit. So, I'm okay with them making that move. But yeah, I like Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers are probably the guys that I would say in this. On Miami side of it, I like Tua, but it's hard I got to say a low end 1, high end 2, because, Tua's really good, but I just get concerned about him getting hit. Achane, which I hope never happens to him again. I know as a quarterback you're going to get hit, but hopefully never a hit that causes any injury or any long or short-term issues. Devon Achane, I like him in this game. Tyreek Hill, I like him. Jalen Waddle as well. I think, again, when Tua's out there, there's a lot to be said about how this offense can move with Tua out there. They're obviously light years better with him than they are without him. It's just about him staying healthy. And then for the Rams at the Patriots, this is a rematch of one of the most boring Super Bowls in the history of mankind. So still, I respect those teams for getting there. It was just a really boring Super Bowl. Todd Gurley wasn't really asked to do much of anything, which caused a lot of us to scratch our heads. But, I like in this game, they're playing New England. New England's not been great. So Matty Stafford, I'm going to call him a mid-range QB. I don't mind you playing him this week. I'm going to call him a mid-range QB1. Kyron Williams is worth the play. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. I like all that. On New England side, I know that Drake May's done some stuff that's moved them in a positive direction, but am I calling him your fantasy stud right now? Not at this moment. And then Ramondre Stevenson, he's a flex out type of guy. And Hunter Henry, if I'm going to pick anybody in the receiving core, I'm going to pick Hunter Henry, and he's the tight end. But I think really it's like Ramondre Stevenson is a flex. It's more like, can the Rams go here and make this a 41-3 game? Matt Stafford, Kyron Williams, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. I see fantasy value with all of them this week. Next game that we're going to get to is going to take us out to Louisiana, and that will be for the Browns at the Saints. And how about this? Famous Jameis Winston, for the first time ever, returns to New Orleans after leaving New Orleans to become a Cleveland Brown after playing backup quarterback and sometimes starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, who have had 5, I would say, quarterbacks, because you got to include the fact that they've put Taysom Hill there at times. Spencer Rattler, Jake Haener, Derek Carr, Jameis Winston. They've had a lot of different guys at quarterback since Drew Brees decided to retire. So, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, now that he's over there, he got 2 touchdowns against Hotlanta. And how about this? Again, whenever you count, there's no sure things in life. There is absolutely not a single sure thing in life, and that is in sports as well. You look at a team that after winning their first 2 games of the season and scoring 91 points have gone on since then to lose 7 straight games, fire their head coach, and then they turn around and beat the Falcons, who have been a pretty good team this year, and they beat them in a close game 20-17 in the AFC South to improve to 3-7 against the 6-4 now Atlanta Falcons. We look at the numbers, and Alvin Kamara, he's had good numbers despite whatever's been going on with this team. His numbers in this game were so-so, 55 yards on the ground. He did catch 5 out of 6 passes thrown his way for 54 yards, so overall he gets over 100 yards, and that's a lot of value for him. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he comes on to another new team, 3 catches, 3 targets, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns on his 3 catches. So a lot of good there for Marquez Valdez-Scantling. In the game against Cleveland, though, you look at the fact and say, okay, well, what's going to happen with this? Jameis Winston is going to be starting against his own team, so this could be exciting in a game for that. Like I said, when teams play the team that they were just on, or when players play the team they were just on, some of those players disappear and some of them have the game of their life. So, am I going to call Jameis your fantasy quarterback starter this week? No. But I like Nick Chubb in the game. Jerry Jeudy, I'm going to call him a flex. On the other side for New Orleans, Derek Carr, I'm gonna put him above Jameis Winston, but I'm still not gonna say he's a high-end quarterback one as a starter. Alvin Kamara is worth the play. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, let's ride it and see where it goes. Flex him out in a deep league. You might have him as a 2. Hopefully you could put him as a 3 if you picked him up on the waiver wire here recently. But I think there's more fantasy value in New Orleans. I just temper it a little bit because of Cleveland Browns' their ability to play defense at times. Cleveland's kind of all over the place. They're a team that really is the definition of an enigma. And when you look at them, they're 2-7 this season. We look at what they've allowed. They've allowed 33 points, 13 points, 21, 20, 34, 20, 21, 24, and 27. So, most of the time they're not allowing that 30-point game. And in a lot of these games, they're keeping you in that 20, 21, 20, 21, 8, I should say not even 18, 13 in that game against the Jaguars. They didn't allow 18, they allowed 13 because they won that game. So, I temper it a little bit because of their defense when I'm looking at New Orleans. But like I said, if you can flex out Marquez Valdez-Scantling, start Alvin Kamara, I like those things. Let's go to another game before we take a step aside here in the Fantasy Football Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. And you can obviously go out there 7 days a week, including for game day. And, of course, for takeout and delivery, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat Sports Pub. Let's go to another divisional matchup. This takes us to the AFC North. And this game is going to be the Baltimore Ravens at the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, they did good things with Justin Fields, and they're doing good things with Russell Wilson. So how about this? One man's trash is another man's treasure, right? Justin Fields left for dead, Russell Wilson left for dead, and they've both won games for a Pittsburgh team that is 7-2 this season. And the Baltimore Ravens, we look at their record, they're 7-3. So they're right there with them. I like Lamar Jackson in the game. I like Derrick Henry. Zay Flowers, I think he's a flex wide receiver at the 3 spot. Isaiah Likely still has a hamstring injury. Hopefully he'll be better. Fantasy-wise, if Isaiah Likely's not out there, it's better for you with Mark Andrews. At the same time, it's like, I'm going to tell you to play Mark Andrews like I did last week if Isaiah Likely is hampered by injury, but I don't like seeing anybody hampered by injury, so I'm not happy to see that. On the other side of it, we have Russell Wilson. Do I want to call him your fantasy guy to put out there? I'm not there yet, but Najee Harris, questionable with an ankle injury. George Pickens, I like George Pickens in this game. If we go back and we look at how the Pittsburgh Steelers have done here with Russ the Bus most recently, we look at this team started out 3-0. They lost 2. Now they won 4 in a row. They just beat the Commanders 28-27 on the road. That was a really good game too, folks. So when you look at Russell Wilson, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception against the Commanders, 14-28. He had 195 yards passing. Jalen Warren, 66 yards on the ground. Najee had 53 and a touchdown. Pickens had 91 yards. Mike Williams on a new team, 1 catch, but it was for a touchdown for 32 yards. Jalen Warren caught a couple out of the backfield. Kelvin Austin caught 2 of the 6 thrown his way for 20 yards. Muth got a touchdown here, and every quarterback has their guys. So, you got to look at Freiermuth and say maybe that's a safety blanket for Russell Wilson. So I'm going to say Pat Freiermuth, I'm going to call him he's worth starting this week at tight end. I would say he's worth the start. George Pickens, I like, and Jalen Warren, a low-end 2, high-end 3 at running back. And, I think this is going to be a good game. With that being said, we're going to take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back, I'm going to circle it here for us. We will go to the Minnesota Vikings up against the Tennessee Titans. 2 teams in 2 different places this season. And we'll talk about it right after this on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. We are inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, not one of, not a, but the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York, right in the Home Depot Plaza, and available to you 7 days a week on site, as well as for takeout and delivery by calling 315-487-2222. With that being said, let's go to the Vikings at the Titans. And good afternoon to Jermaine. Hope you're doing well. Vikings at the Titans. For the Minnesota Vikings, they're a very talented team. They're 7-2. I like Sam Darnold in this game. I like him as a mid-range quarterback, what I'm going to say. I like Justin Jefferson. I like Jordan Addison. I like TJ Hawkinson in this game. Unfortunately, Aaron Jones is questionable with a rib injury. God willing, he'll be okay. Cam Akers and Ty Chandler may get the nod for this. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And this one, this could be a day, this could be a week to pick up Cam Akers on the waiver wire or free agency and flex him out. And then from there, Justin Jefferson, like I said, Jordan Addison, I like Sam Darnold. On the other end of it for the Tennessee Titans, this Tennessee Titans team is in a different place. You got a 7-2 team in Minnesota and a 2-7 team in Tennessee. And Tennessee, granted, Will Levis has gone through some injury. Mason Rudolph has had to step in and play. They won a game at the Dolphins, and they won a home game against the Patriots. They just lost to the Chargers on the road 27-17. And Tennessee, Levis is back. Tajay Spears, 47 yards on the ground. Pollard had 44. Ridley's doing well with Tennessee. 2 touchdowns in the game. The 2 that were thrown by Will Levis went to Calvin Ridley. 84 yards, 5 catches, 9 targets, 2 touchdowns. Led the team in every category there. In targets, in receptions, in yards, and in touchdowns against the Chargers, despite the loss. So if you want to put Calvin Ridley out in this game, you can look at putting Calvin Ridley out. But outside of that, I don't see a ton of fantasy value unless you're going to put out 3 or 4 running backs and you want to test your luck with Tony Pollard or Tajay Spears. In a PPR, Pollard had 4 catches on 4 targets. Tajay had 3 catches on 3 targets. So, you could flex those guys out. But I think to me, the fantasy value's in Calvin Ridley right now. He's had some good games this season. It's his first season in Tennessee. And we look at where he's at as far as his performance. Most recently, 2 touchdowns. They're his first touchdowns in weeks here. He had a touchdown against the Jets a while back. I don't know why I thought he had another touchdown somewhere within these last couple weeks. I thought he had one last week, but 2 touchdowns. He's been okay. Ridley's a flex out. Tajay and Tony Pollard, they're guys that you're going to look to maybe flex out in this game. Minnesota's got a lot of the fantasy value, and I think Minnesota, you can also say something about their defense and special teams in this game and creating some takeaways. Outside of that, we'll go to the Colts at the Jets. The Colts are looking to Joe Flacco. So many have looked to Joe Flacco. I find it hilarious that I backed Joe Flacco as a rookie, and I think some people thought I was nuts. Guys coming out of the University of Delaware, Blue Hens. Shout out to his kicker, John Strajewski, whose jersey's over my shoulder here during every live broadcast in the morning of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. They laughed at that. Joe Flacco, University of Delaware, Blue Hen, they're like, yeah, okay, what's he going to do? And then he turns around and has the type of career that he's had so far. And, he had a lot of early success with this team. And I think people forget. I mean, this guy won a Super Bowl. He was the comeback player of the year in 2023-24. So don't undercut or underestimate what Joe Flacco can do. And he's playing the Jets, and the Jets aren't playing great this season at all. Now, Flacco goes back to number 2. Anthony Richardson's the starting quarterback. This team's kind of all over the place. If you want to put Jonathan Taylor out as running back 2, Michael Pittman Jr. is inactive last week. So, we'll take a look at most recently here where Michael Pittman Jr. is at. And the current statement on here is taking a look at where things are with him. I'm just trying to see if there's any update about this. He said it was a good wake-up call about Anthony Richardson. Michael Pittman Jr. said it was a good wake-up call for Anthony Richardson. Thank you for the shameless plug. I appreciate it. But I think Jonathan Taylor, he's worth the play in this. I mean, Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, Adonai Mitchell. They're kind of wide receiver 4s right now because it's a toss-up of where the ball is going to go. As far as the Jets go, not having the season and that's why I said you can't glorify a team and be like, well, you brought in a quarterback, so now the whole world's going to change. You know what I mean? A lot of things have to work. They beat the Texans, but they just got blown out by the Cardinals on the road, 31-6. So, here's another time that the Jets don't score a touchdown. So, Aaron Rodgers, he's been okay. Breece Hall's been okay. Garrett Wilson in this game was okay. Breece is good at catching the ball out of the backfield, though. So, against Indy, I like Breece Hall and I like Garrett Wilson. That's really all I got for you fantasy-wise when it comes to the Jets right now in this moment and in that matchup. The next one we have here, Atlanta at Denver. This is intriguing to me. This is intriguing to me because Atlanta has done some good things and Denver's done some good things. Atlanta's 6-4. And then on the other side of the matchup, the Denver Broncos are 5-5. So they're right there with each other, right? They're not on the same side. You got the NFC for Atlanta and you got the AFC for the Denver Broncos. But Denver's defense, they show up to play. And this team, I really like what this team has done. I do. I give the Denver Broncos a lot of credit. And like I said, I had a good feeling about Bo Nix, and so far so good, right? He's been the starter since day one, coming onto the team as a rookie, and they've won 5 games with him. Now, they just lost to the Ravens. They got blown out, and they lost at the Chiefs 16-14. The Denver Broncos this season have allowed 26, 13, 7, 9, 18, 23, 10, 14, 41, and 16. So outside of that 41-point game that they gave up to the Ravens, their defense has shown up in a lot of ways this season. You look at how many games that they held the team under 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games that they've held them at 14 or less. So, and in the game against the Steelers, they held them to 13, but they only scored 6. They lost that game. So, Denver's defense comes to play, and Atlanta, like I said, Atlanta's done some things that make me kind of sit here and go, okay, all right, Atlanta's not too shabby. The game at the Saints here, the Saints have been reeling, and they helped end the Saints' losing streak by losing to the Saints after they beat the Cowboys, they beat the Bucks, they beat the Panthers, they beat the Bucks again, they beat the Saints the first time around and only lost to the Seahawks. So they were winners of 5 of 6, and then they just lost to the Saints on the road. Most recently for the gang over in Atlanta, Kirk Cousins went 23 of 38, no touchdowns, interception, over 300 yards passing. Beige had 2 touchdowns and over 100 yards rushing. Drake London continues to do good things. He had almost 100 yards receiving. Darnell Mooney had almost 100 yards receiving. Kyle Pitts caught 4 of the 6 thrown his way for 55 yards. Not too shabby for a tight end. So, I mean, in this matchup, I'm going to say Beige, yes. Tyler Algier, I still think he's good to flex out. I like Drake London in the game. Darnell Mooney, I'm going to call him a wide receiver 3, and I'm going to call Kyle Pitts a mid-range 1. For the home team and the Denver Broncos, this is where I look at this team and I say, this team is doing some good things. But are there guys that I feel like you can really lean on in fantasy individually right now becomes the question. When we go to this close loss to the Chiefs, 16-14, Audric Esteem had 14 carries for 53 yards. Marvin Mims, the receiver, 3 for 17. Jaleel McLaughlin, 2 for 12. Javonte Williams had 1 carry for 1 yard. Cortland Sutton had a touchdown. Devon Val had a touchdown. Trotman caught the only pass thrown to the tight end's way for 34 yards. So I would say Denver in fantasy, I would say Cortland Sutton. I mean, that's the individual that I feel really good about, Cortland Sutton. That's who I would say. I mean, these running backs, there's nobody I lean on at this point that I feel really, really good about consistently from week to week. They find ways to win at times, but they've been, just okay when it comes to running the ball. Seattle at San Francisco. This Seattle at San Francisco game inside of the NFC West. The Seattle Seahawks right now have a current record of 4-5. They're not out of it, but they got a record of 4-5. They have lost 5 of their last 6 games. So all of those 5 losses of that 4-5 record have come in their last 6 matchups. They've only won at the Falcons. They lost to the Rams 26-20 in overtime, and then they had a week off. In that game, Geno Smith, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Kenneth Walker had 25 carries, 83 yards. Zach Charbonnet is not doing much of anything, 2 carries for 8 yards. Jackson Smith and Jigba had 2 touchdowns. Lockett had a touchdown in the absence of DK Metcalf. So Seattle, for me, in this one against San Francisco's been all over the place. So I like Kenneth Walker III in this game. I like Jackson Smith and Jigba. Questionable for week 11 is going to be DK Metcalf with that MCL injury. Hopefully he'll be okay. But Tyler Lockett, I would say in this, maybe you could flex out a Lockett. Jackson Smith and Jigba, I like him more than I like Tyler Lockett in this matchup. For the San Francisco 49ers, this is a team that has been good when healthy. There's a team that's been head-scratching at times when healthy, and they've obviously had their issues with CMC going down due to injury. But San Francisco's 5-4, so they're the flip of Seattle. They're ahead of Seattle in the NFC West, and they've won their last 2 games. And their most recent game at the Buccaneers, give the Bucs credit. The Bucs have played a hell of a last couple weeks with having their guys injured. You got Chris Godwin and Mike Evans injured, and they've given Kansas City all they can handle and San Francisco all they can handle. And what are those 2 teams? The teams that played in the most recent Super Bowl. So take that for what it is. Brock Purdy had 2 touchdowns this past week, no interceptions, 353 yards. McCaffrey, 13 carries for 39 yards in his return. Juwan Jennings, 93 yards. Ricky Pearsall had 73 yards and a touchdown. So for San Fran, I mean, Debo's back. So in this one, I would say Debo's worth the play. CMC's worth the play. And I'm gonna put Brock Purdy ahead of Geno Smith, but I don't know if I would declare him your starter for this week in fantasy football. Next one we have up is going to take us to a game that I know Buffalo loves to play, and that's against Kansas City. Buffalo and Kansas City, man. I look at this and I say to myself, here's Xavier Worthy going up against the team that could have drafted him. And instead, the team that ends up drafting him is Kansas City, who traded with the Bills to take their pick and then go and get this guy. When we look at their head-to-head play against each other, Buffalo lost the last time they played Kansas City. They lost 27-24. Then, let's see this one. Buffalo defeated Kansas City on December 10th of 2023, 20-17. They beat them 24-20. They lost to them 42-36 in overtime back in January 23rd of 2022, also a playoff game. They beat Kansas City 38-20 before that on 10-10-21. And Buffalo lost 2 in a row before that, 38-24, and then 26-17. So, I mean, if we look from 2020 to now, Kansas City has 1, 2, 3, 4 wins, and Buffalo has 3 wins. So, I mean, this has been a great matchup. And it's been a matchup that gets people thinking about what are the playoffs going to look like between these two teams, but that's the thing. Kansas City, when you look at their wins since 2020, when they're meeting Buffalo in the playoffs, they're handling Buffalo in the playoffs. Buffalo's wins against Kansas City since 2020, they're coming in the regular season. So there's something to be said about that, right? They still struggle against them in the postseason. So in this game, Pat Mahomes, Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce, DeAndre Hopkins, and I would flex out Xavier Worthy because he's going to try and show that he was worthy, right, of getting that draft pick. And here's the team that traded out of it, and Kansas City went and took him. I like Josh Allen in the game. I like James Cook in the game. Coop is on the injury report. He was inactive last week. Keon Coleman, he's out for this week. So it's going to be on Kincaid and Shakir, but Kincaid has a knee injury. So Shakir could be worth putting as a flex out. Kincaid, if he's able to go, then I would look at starting him. But there's going to be more emphasis on James Cook, maybe on Ray Davis, and Josh Allen just looking for the open guy out there in the field. That's going to be a difficult game for Buffalo because they're not at full tilt, where Kansas City has a lot of their offensive guys healthy. With that being said, we're going to take our final step aside, and we'll get into Sunday and Monday Night Football right after this. Actually, pardon me, we're going to get into, I don't think, there may not be Sunday Night Football this week, if I'm correct in this. I don't think there is Sunday Night Football. Let me make sure I'm not crazy right now. No, there's a Sunday night game. The Sunday night game is Cincinnati at Los Angeles. There's just okay, yeah, I read that quick and I thought it said Monday night. Okay, so the Bengals at the Chargers and Houston at Dallas, which is Houston's first ever NFL game when they were an expansion team in 2022. And keep in mind, they won that game over the Cowboys. They're a better team now than they were back then, but they beat the Cowboys back then in their first ever game as an NFL franchise. So we'll take a step aside. We'll get to Sunday and Monday Night Football. First one up going to be the Bengals at the Chargers on Sunday night right after this.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315 487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks, they bring you right into the action, right? Your favorite football team, favorite football player, baseball, soccer, hockey, basketball, they bring you right into the mix of all of that. You're sitting here going, man, I'm not a Vikings fan, but Jordan Addison, he's done well for me in fantasy. I'd love to get one of his rookie cards. He's become one of my favorite players. Well, head into GG Cards and Breaks and see what they got. They bring you close to the game, close to the action by helping you go home with these awesome pieces, these relic cards, these autograph cards, numbered cards, rookie patch auto cards. So many great things at GG Cards and Breaks. Singles, packs, boxes, and graded cards are all there waiting for you. They got Kyle McCord and Aronde Gadsden cards while supplies last, so make sure you go out there and get those today. Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering, Disney Lorcana, as well as Pokemon, all of that is at 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, right off of Teal Ave. So make sure you go to get some GG Cards and Breaks today. Open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sundays from 10 to 5. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life, we're on to Sunday Night Football, Week 11 inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, Week 11 of the 2024-25 season, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York, in the Home Depot Plaza. Open 7 days a week and open for takeout and delivery by calling 315-487-2222. Let's go to the Bengals at the Chargers for Sunday Night Football, first and foremost with the Cincinnati Bengals. So looking at the Bengals right now, they have struggled. They just lost to the Ravens in division of the AFC North 35-34 in a very close game. In that game, Burrow had 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Chase Brown had a touchdown. Jamar Chase had 3 touchdowns, 11 catches on 17 targets, 264 yards. Some teams don't total that in total offense. Jamar Chase got me 59 points on Thursday Night Football this past week in Wake Up Call Fantasy. Tanner Hudson, he had the other touchdown. If you're like, Dan, who's Tanner Hudson? Well, I'll tell you. Tanner Hudson is number 87. He is a tight end from Southern Arkansas in his 5th season in the NFL. 30 years old. So taking a look at Cincinnati for this matchup, I like Joe Burrow. I like Chase Brown as a 2. Jamar Chase, I like him as well. Mike Gesicki, I mean, they've been kind of going to different people, so I don't know if I would lean on him as my 1 at tight end, maybe a mid-range 1. T. Higgins was inactive this past week. We'll see where he stands here, but I like Jamar Chase. I like Chase Brown in this game as well, and outside of that, I mean, Gesicki, 4 catches on 9 targets, so they're obviously looking for him. Andre Yosivas, 4 targets, 2 catches, 29 yards, not much to write home about for Yosivas. So I'd say Gesicki's a mid-range 1. For the Chargers on the other end of this matchup for some Sunday Night Football, we know that Justin Herbert and the Chargers get up for them late-night games and those primetime games. They're 6-3 on the season. People forget that because you're paying attention in the AFC West to the Chiefs, who are still undefeated. But that 27-17 win over the Tennessee Titans most recently, Herbert had 1 touchdown, 14 of 18. He didn't have to do much. 164 yards. Gus Edwards, 10 carries, 55. J.K., 15 carries for 50. Herbert had a rushing touchdown. Hassan Haskins, who came from Tennessee, ironically, who drafted him, scored a touchdown against his old team. What I tell you, sometimes when you play that team that you were on before, you're going to turn around and do something big. Ladd McConkey, he's had a great rookie year. I had a feeling like he would be one of those rookie wide receivers that we'd have to look at putting out there and playing and collecting his cards. 2 catches, 2 targets, 52 yards. So he's done some good things. Quentin Johnston had a touchdown in the game, the only one thrown by Justin Herbert. So I like Herbert in the matchup. I like J.K. Dobbins in the matchup. I like Ladd McConkey as well. Quentin Johnston, if you want to maybe flex somebody out to give you some Sunday night value. Last game that we're going to do is the last game of Week 11 of the 2024-25 season, and that is going to be a rematch of the first game the Texans ever played, which they won, which is Houston and Dallas facing off against each other. 2 cities in the great state of Texas and 2 teams in 2 totally different places. The Houston Texans will go to first as the road team. C.J. Stroud, Joe Mixon, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz. I say yes to all of them. And I say yes to Dalton Schultz because, remember, Dallas let him go. They let him go to Houston. I don't know why. And not that Jake Ferguson hasn't done some good things for them, but I wouldn't have let go of Dalton Schultz. Dallas drafted him. They saw value in him. I don't know why they would let him go. On the other side of it for Dallas, do I feel good about anybody on this team? Keep in mind, Dak Prescott, he's all done here for the year. Cooper Rush is the guy now. The team is 3-6, and they have lost 4 games in a row. They lost to the Eagles 34-6 in just an abysmal game. So the Eagles are 7-2. They're creeping up the NFC as well. Don't forget about them. Trey Lance got involved. Cooper Rush got involved. Trey Lance only threw 6 passes. One of them was an interception. Rico Dowdle, 53 yards. Zeke, 22 yards on the ground. Jake Ferguson, 4 catches, 5 targets, 24 yards. CeeDee Lamb was targeted 10 times, caught 6, but only got 21 yards on that. So, I mean, if you're going to play anybody, I would say CeeDee Lamb, but I don't feel like Dallas is going to do much of anything here. And that is your fantasy advice for this week in fantasy football. The Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. Make sure you're here with us every Wednesday for fantasy football content. With that being said, I want to thank my guests all throughout today's show. Susan Kim, Lemoyne Dolphins volleyball head coach, joining me in an all-new Dolphin Dive in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with the Lemoyne College Dolphins. Casey Brown joining me ahead of the 2024 Section 3 Class AA Championship this Friday night at 8 p.m. on November 15th. We spoke with Jim Ryan, the CNS North Stars head coach, and now we've spoken with Casey Brown, the CBA Brothers head coach, as they set off to go up against each other in this matchup. We've seen many a time that in recent history, CBA has gone up against CNS for a sectional championship, but this is the first time that Jim Ryan is coaching CNS in a game when they're going up against Casey Brown and CBA. So thanks to both of those coaches. Casey, of course, for joining me today. And Allie Yeager, fantastic conversation that went by like it was 5 minutes. Awesome time with her. Allie Yeager with her Binghamton Bearcats volleyball team, their head coach, and they're on the road in Bethlehem, PA today at Lehigh, and then they're back home this Sunday back in conference, and they're going up against NJIT. If they win that game, they will be hosting the America East volleyball postseason tournament. So a lot on the line for the Bearcats. And I want to thank you for watching and listening to Wake Up Call all around the country and the world on youtube.com and facebook.com, both /wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. Big time thanks to everybody that's with us on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Click subscribe and click follow while you're there. Big time thanks to all of our partners here in Central and Upstate New York. I want to thank Brooklyn Pickle down in the great state of North Carolina as well, in Southern Pines, down the road from Pinehurst Golf Courses, those historic golf courses down there in Southern Pines. So 1788 Old Morganton Road, minutes away from Pinehurst Golf Courses. You will find the Brooklyn Pickle down in North Carolina and Southern Pines. Go there today. Carvel DeWitt, you can get my DT Dolphin every Wednesday in a buy one, get one. So you can get it any day of the week. But on Wednesdays, buy one, get one free. Go and get the DT Dolphin today at Carvel DeWitt exclusively, 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York. It is what happy tastes like. And, of course, at Carvel DeWitt, the DT Dolphin, mint chocolate chip, green for the Dolphins, hot fudge, whipped cream, and a cherry, green and gold sprinkles, and a chocolate dolphin jumping out of your whipped cream. Go and get that any day of the week and buy one, get one today and every Wednesday. The Wildcat Sports Pub, Servomation, reimagining, reinvigorating, and just retooling what it means to have vending in your business, in your school, in your rest stop. Wherever you have vending, you want to have it through Servomation, thanks to their technology, their awesome kitchen, and their many, many choices. I have totally changed my mind about vending thanks to Brian Bruno and Servomation. Find out more at servomation.com. Mother's Cupboard, GG Cards and Breaks, Avicoli's, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Ma and Pa's, the snack capital of the world, Fire Pit Barbecue and Saloon, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Great Lakes Honda City, Brian's Landing, Canine Campground, Dog Boarding, Pizza Man, and of course we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It's Fins Up every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Dolphins every week on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time in our Dolphin Dives, where you dive into stories of student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. You'll find all of our content by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, find the Lemoyne playlist. The Dolphins are also on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to LemoyneDolphins.com. And as always, Fins Up, make sure you're watching the game tonight. I want to let everybody know here really quick, and I'm going to do a little search just to make sure I have this all set and ready for you. If you go to, see, I have YouTube TV. So if you have YouTube TV, you could definitely check this out. Lemoyne at Connecticut, I'm taking a look at what this is going to be on here. So Lemoyne at Connecticut is going to be on Fox Sports 1 tonight, and I already have it being recorded. I want to make sure I had it on here. So Lemoyne men's basketball will face off against the back-to-back reigning national champion UConn Huskies tonight. And it's going to be on television 7 p.m. Eastern Time today, November 13th. Lemoyne at Connecticut for men's basketball. And that is going to be on Fox Sports 1. So make sure you're watching that. As always, Fins Up. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Bobcats every single month in the Bobcat Buzz. Men's and women's soccer, men's and women's basketball, as well as baseball and esports can all be found on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Go to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you will find our BSC Syracuse playlist. You can also find the Bobcats by going to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com and go Bobcats. The Binghamton University Bearcats are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You will find your Bearcats every single month and every single week on Wake Up Call on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. This week, we shifted them over to Wednesday, but they'll be back on Tuesday next week. Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. The Bearcat Break Room, Moments with Marshall. The Bearcat Break Room bringing us student athletes, coaches, and administration stories. And Moments with Marshall with Gene Marshall, Binghamton University Athletics Director. Find all of our content, like I said, weekly, airing Tuesdays at 10 a.m., exclusively on Wake Up Call at Eastern Time for 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, you will find your Bearcats on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, find the Bearcat playlist for Binghamton on our YouTube channel, and you'll also find them on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to binghamtonbearcats.com and go Bearcats. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, again, many thanks to Susan Kim, Casey Brown, Allie Yeager, the Wildcat Sports Pub, for bringing you the Fantasy Football Power Hour. I hope you have a wonderful day. Stay safe and stay well. Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, Instagram at wakeupcall_DT. God bless, no stress. Do your best.